All right, let's talk about something we have all been through, something that can make your heart just pound and your palms start to sweat. I'm talking about the dreaded, the one and only, awkward silence. You know that feeling, don't you? The conversation is flowing, everything's going great, and then bam, it just hits a brick wall. Total, deafening silence. And your brain just goes into panic mode, screaming, say something, say, and even at all. You know, this quote just nails it perfectly. One second, you're strolling along, everything's fine, and the next, you've completely fallen into this conversational pit. It's especially bad on a first date, right? Or maybe with a new colleague. It can be genuinely stressful. So, how do we climb out of that hole? Well, today we're going to lay out a clear roadmap. First, we'll look at the fear itself. Then, we'll talk about making peace with silence. After that, we've got 3 amazing connection strategies. We'll discuss something called the dead plant, and then we'll wrap it all up with the core lessons. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Let's get to the root of this thing. Why on earth does a simple pause in a conversation feel so absolutely terrifying? Well, a lot of it comes from this invisible pressure we put on ourselves. We feel like we have to be on all the time, constantly performing, proving that we're clever and engaging. It's like we're on stage, and when the silence hits, it feels like we've forgotten our lines. And that brings us to what might be the biggest turning point in this whole thing. The first step, and this is kind of counterintuitive, isn't to fight the silence. It's not to desperately fill it. It's actually to make peace with it. So look at this. This is the huge mindset shift we need to make. On one hand, you've got this enemy mindset. Silence must be filled. I have to perform. But what if we just flipped the script? What if we saw silence as a friend? It's a normal part of any conversation. And hey, it's not going to kill you. Just accepting that, just that one little change can lift this massive weight off your shoulders. So, why do these moments feel so catastrophic? Well, it's because of this funny little quirk in our brains called the negativity bias. Our brains are basically wired to blow up negative experiences while they're happening. But here's the kicker. Think back. Try to remember the last 5 awkward silences you had. Can you? Probably not. They almost never feel important enough to get saved to your long-term memory. Okay, so we've calmed down, we've accepted that silence is okay. So now what do we actually do? Well, this is where our toolkit comes in. We've got 3 really solid strategies, not just for getting through a silence, but for building a real connection. We're going to cover how to listen with like a deep sense of curiosity. Then, how to become a more interesting person yourself. And finally, my favorite, how to totally break the boring conversational script with some fun, even silly questions. All right, strategy number 1 is a total game changer. Instead of frantically digging through your own brain trying to find something brilliant to say, you're going to shift your focus completely. Put it all on the other person. Become a detective. Get genuinely curious about their world. Take a look at this. A super simple, kind of boring statement like, I cut my hand fixing my car. To most people, that's a dead end. But if you're really listening, man, it's a gold mine. What kind of car? Is it yours? How'd you cut it? Do you fix cars yourself a lot? Suddenly, you've got a dozen different paths to go down. You're not trying to think of what to say next. You're just following your curiosity. Now, for our second strategy, and this one might seem a little indirect at first, but stick with me. If you want to have interesting conversations, you gotta be an interesting person. And that really comes from building a rich, full inner world for yourself. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Your hobbies, your passions, whether you're into astrophysics or hiking or just trying new baking recipes, that's the well you draw from in a conversation. It gives you stories, it gives you energy, it gives you different perspectives you can share. And now for our third and probably the boldest strategy of them all, you gotta dare to ask some silly questions. This is all about breaking those unwritten and, let's be honest, pretty boring rules of small talk. So questions like, how tall are you? Or do you mow your own lawn? They sound super random, I know, but that is exactly the point. It's a pattern interrupt. It yanks both of you off that predictable, boring script of, so what do you do? And how was your weekend? It shows you're actually paying attention to them as a person, and it makes the whole interaction way more real and definitely more memorable. Okay, time for a necessary dose of realism. We've got our strategies, we're ready to go. But what happens when you try everything and the conversation still just goes absolutely nowhere? This is such a crucial question, right? Because sometimes you do your best, you listen hard, you ask great questions, but the other person, they're just not engaging. You get one-word answers, they don't ask anything back, the energy just isn't there. And this metaphor is your perfect guide for that situation. Think about it. You could be the best gardener in the entire world, with the best tools, the best intentions, but if the plant is dead, watering it is just a waste of time and energy. Communication is a two-way street. It takes two to make it work. So here's the big takeaway. Letting a conversation die is not a failure. It's actually a sign of really high emotional intelligence. It's you smartly managing your social energy. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe you two just don't click, and that's okay. Recognizing that and just gracefully moving on, that is a skill in and of itself. All right, let's bring it all home. Let's recap the big core lessons that you can really take away from all this. First, and most importantly, change your mindset. Silence is normal, it's not a threat. Second, become a conversational detective. Listen with real curiosity. Third, build your own world. Have hobbies, have passions. Fourth, don't be afraid to break that boring script with a real question. And finally, always remember the dead plant. Know when it's time to conserve your energy and just walk away. And we'll end on this thought, because ultimately, the goal isn't just to avoid awkwardness, right? It's not just about filling every single second with noise. The real purpose, the thing that's actually worth striving for, is connection, a genuine human connection. So the real question is, what kind of connection are you trying to build? When you start thinking about that, well, that changes everything.